Stop storing your homestead materials like you're running a feed store warehouse. Your garage is not an inventory room, and every dollar you spend on plastic bins, airtight containers, and fancy storage solutions is money that could be growing your food instead. Today, I'm showing you the real system that cuts your material costs in half, keeps everything organized without buying a single new container, and actually makes your daily work faster. Because the way most homesteaders organize their supplies is backwards. You know what I'm talking about. You buy a 50-pound bag of scratch grains or layer pellets. You pour half of it into a plastic storage container because the original bag takes up too much room. Then you buy another container for the oyster shell, another for the seeds, another for the coop bedding, and another for the garden amendments. Pretty soon you've spent $80 or $90 on containers, and you've got a storage system so complicated that you have to remember which bin is what. And here is the problem nobody talks about. Plastic containers fail. The lids crack, the corners split, moisture creeps in, and your supplies start to clump, rot, or attract pests. So you buy new containers, and new ones again. It becomes a subscription, just like the paper towels. You are not buying storage once. You are buying it every year, and you never actually own a system that works. The method that actually works starts with understanding what our grandparents understood. Metal and wood last. Not because they are fancy, because they do their job and they do not fail. A galvanized bucket costs $3 at a flea market, and it will outlive you. A dented milk can that someone throws away for free works better than a $50 plastic storage system because it seals itself, it breathes when it needs to, and it does not warp or crack. A wooden crate from behind a farm supply store is yours for the taking, and it will hold grain or root vegetables for decades without rotting if you understand one simple principle: air and drainage. Now, before I tell you where to find these things and how to set them up, I want to be clear about something. This is not about being cheap. It is not even about being traditional. It is about efficiency. A plastic bin is inconvenient. You have to label it. You have to store the lid somewhere. You have to remember what is in it. You have to replace it every few years. A metal bucket is honest work. You open it. You see what is there. You close it. Done. It is 4 fewer decisions, and over the course of a year, those small decisions add up to hours of your time wasted. Here is how you actually build this system. First, you stop buying containers. You start collecting them. Every metal bucket you see at a yard sale, you take it home. 25 cents, 50 cents, you buy it. Dented milk cans from the antique market. Plastic 5-gallon buckets from the restaurant supply place that are giving them away because they got the paint on them and cannot sell them. Wooden apple crates, feed bags, even old car tires if you cut them in half and treat them right. You are not organizing your homestead. You are rescuing containers that have already been made. Someone else paid for them. Someone else paid the shipping. You just pay the disposal fee, and the container comes home with you. The second part of the system is understanding what each container is for. And this is crucial because not all containers do all jobs equally. A metal bucket with ventilation holes, and you drill these yourself if they are not already there, is perfect for grains, seeds, and anything that needs to stay dry, but also needs to breathe a little. A sealed metal can work for things that must stay absolutely dry. Small seeds, expensive feed additives, anything that costs enough money that you cannot afford to lose it to moisture. Wooden crates work for root vegetables, for storage of tools, for anything that goes in a cool basement or cellar where air moves naturally. Plastic buckets work for water, for compost, for things you are going to dump out of regularly. Each container matches its job, and you stop fighting against what the container actually wants to do. The money you save is not subtle. A decent plastic storage bin costs $12 to $20. A metal bucket costs $2 to $4 at a flea market. A 5-gallon bucket, free. A wooden crate, free to $2 if it is especially nice. So if you are organizing a homestead that stores 30 to 40 containers of supplies, you are looking at $300 to $800 just in storage containers if you buy them new. Using rescues and secondhand finds, you are spending $30 to $40, and your system will actually outlast the plastic one by a decade or more. That is not budgeting. That is mathematics. But the real savings are invisible, because once you have done this once, you are not shopping for containers anymore. You see a bucket, you take it home. You see a crate, you find a place for it. Your supply organization does not require a trip to a home improvement store. It does not require a decision between 12 different plastic options. It does not eat your mental energy. And more importantly, your supplies stay better in these containers. They do not get moisture damage because metal and wood are not trying to create a sealed plastic tomb. They do not trap heat the way plastic does in a hot garage. They do not fail suddenly, leaving you with damaged grain and a mess to clean up at harvest time. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking that this sounds like work. You are thinking that you would rather just buy 5 containers from the store and be done with it. And I understand that. But here is the difference. Buying containers from the store is work you do once and then never see the benefit of. Finding and repurposing containers is work you do once and then you save time and money every single day for the rest of your life. You open a metal bucket. You see what is there, you know it will not fail. You move on to the actual work, which is the farm, which is the garden, which is the thing that matters. The system I am describing is not new. It is not even uncommon in places where people still run farms for a living. It is only uncommon in the parts of homesteading where people have decided that everything must be purchased from a store, and the newest plastic solution is the best solution. But if you want to actually save money, actually reduce your burden, and actually own your supplies instead of renting them in plastic form every year, this is how you do it. There is one more thing I want to show you, and it is the reason this system scales so well for larger homesteads. Most people think of this as a one-time organization project. You collect your containers, you set it up, you are done. But the genius of the system is that it grows with you. If you need more storage next year, you are not buying new containers. You are finding them. You already know where to look. You already know what works. Your supply storage becomes a living system that costs almost nothing to expand, and every year it is more efficient than the year before, not less. The amount of money most homesteaders waste on storage solutions is staggering once you start looking at it. Some people spend more on keeping their supplies organized than they spend on the supplies themselves. That is not organization. That is indulgence. Real organization is free to nearly free, because it is built on containers that have already been paid for, that have already been manufactured, that someone else is throwing away. You are just moving them one more place down the line before they truly end their lives. So, this is not a video about storage containers. It is a video about stopping waste. It is about understanding that the supply organization systems most homesteaders are using were designed to make you buy things every year, not to actually work well. And once you see that, once you understand that your plastic bins are a subscription you did not know you were paying, you can step out of it. You can take back control of your system. And you can do it today, with things that already exist, for money you might not even have to spend at all. That is the real hack. That is the real savings. And that is what I want to show you more of. Now, let me show you what we actually use instead of those plastic bins that promise to last forever but start cracking after 2 seasons. And here is the truth nobody wants to hear. Those containers were never designed to last. The manufacturer knows that if they made a bin that truly lasted your whole life, you would only buy one. So instead, they make them break. It is not accident. It is mathematics. They calculated exactly how long a plastic bin needs to last before you get frustrated enough to throw it out and buy new ones. That is the business model. What we use instead are things that were never meant to be containers at all. This old wash tub? It was a wash tub. This metal bucket? It was used for carrying feed to the animals. This wooden crate? It came from the apple orchard down the road, and they were going to burn it. None of these things were purchased as storage solutions. They became storage solutions after they finished being something else. And here is what matters. They have already proven they can last decades. You do not have to hope. You can see the evidence right there on the surface. It has already done years of real work. Most homesteaders I know have figured out that buying new is not where the money goes. It goes into replacing what already broke. And that cycle only stops when you step off it. When you start understanding containers not as things you buy, but as things you inherit. Things that come to you already proven. That is a different conversation entirely. I want to walk you through the actual system, because people ask this all the time. They say, okay, I understand the idea, but how do you keep things organized? How do you find what you need? How do you not just end up with a pile of random junk that nobody can manage? And that is a fair question, because the difference between a well-organized storage system and a disaster is actually quite small. It is not about the containers. It is about the method. First thing, you have to label everything. Not with fancy label makers that break after a year. Use a pencil or paint marker and write directly on the container. Pencil does not fade. Paint marker stays. And here is the magic part. When the container eventually moves on to do something else, the pencil mark washes right off. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is locked in. This is flexible storage. Second, you organize by what you actually reach for. Not by size, not by how pretty the container looks, by frequency of use. The things you grab every week go at eye level. The things you use monthly go a little higher or lower. The things you use once a season go on the back shelf. This is not complicated. This is how your grandmother did it. This is how every household before plastic bins did it. And it works better than any color-coded system you will see on the internet. Third, containers should fit their purpose. You do not need 5 different sizes. You need the right size for what goes in it. Too big, and you waste space and things get lost. Too small, and you are overfilling and breaking seals. This is where people go wrong with plastic bins. They buy a set of 20 different sizes, hoping to be ready for anything. But most of what you actually store falls into 3 or 4 categories: feed, tools, seeds, hardware, preserved food. That is most of it right there. So you need maybe 3 different container sizes, total. Now here is where people really lose the thread. They get the containers sorted and labeled, and they feel good, and then 3 months later everything is chaos again. Know why? Because they did not create a system for rotation, a system for putting things back. This is not about discipline. This is about making the system so easy that you actually use it. When you use something, it comes out of the container. When you are done, it goes back immediately. Not later. Not when you get around to it. Immediately. This habit takes maybe 2 weeks to establish, and then your brain just does it without thinking. But it only works if the thing has a home. If there is an obvious place for it. If you have not bought too many containers hoping to have space for everything someday. I get asked a lot about moisture and keeping things safe. And yes, that matters. But here is the secret. You do not need special containers. You need airflow and dryness. Those metal buckets that have been sitting in barns for 60 years, they are dry right now because of how they sit. The wooden crates, they breathe. The ceramic crocks, they regulate humidity naturally. These are not accidents. These materials were chosen over centuries because they actually work. They were not chosen because they were cheap. They were chosen because they were the best solution. If something needs actual protection from moisture, like seeds or fine tools, you do one of 3 things. 1, you put it in a sealed glass jar. 2, you use a traditional cloth bag with a drawstring, which keeps out dust but lets the wood breathe. 3, you add something that absorbs moisture. Not silica packets. Use dried beans. Use uncooked rice. Use hardwood ash from the fire. Put a handful in the bottom of the container. When the moisture starts to build up, the rice or beans will absorb it. And when they get saturated, you pull them out, dry them by the fire, and put them back in. They last forever. This is the part where everyone's brain starts to reject this because it seems too simple. You are waiting for the catch. You are waiting for me to tell you that you need to buy something special, or that this only works if you are willing to maintain it constantly, or that it is only for people who already know what they are doing. But there is no catch. This actually works better than the modern alternative. It just does not make anybody money, so nobody talks about it. I want to tell you about one more thing, because this is where the real money appears. The containers you do not have to buy at all, because they come looking for you. Every farm has a steady stream of things that arrive with stuff already in them. Feed comes in bags. You could throw those bags away, but that canvas feed sack is a container now. Seed comes in boxes. That box now holds seed. Vegetables come in wooden crates from the orchard. Those crates are now yours. Hardware arrives in cardboard. Fold that cardboard flat, and it stores behind the door for the next time you need it. If you have never paid attention to this before, start noticing it. Everything that arrives at your place came in something. Most of the time, that something is better than anything you could buy. It was made to be strong enough to hold what was already in it, so it can definitely hold what you want to put in it next. It is like having a whole storage system delivered to your door already paid for, because you were going to buy the contents anyway. This is where the math actually changes. Most homesteaders think storage is an expense. They budget for bins and shelving and organization systems. But once you see what is actually possible, the math flips completely. Storage becomes free. It shows up when you need it, and the only cost is a little bit of attention to what is arriving anyway. That is not savings. That is just seeing clearly. Now, there is one thing you need to know before you start doing this, because I see people mess this up all the time. Not every container that arrives is worth keeping. Some boxes fall apart the moment you touch them. Some have chemical residue or food stains that will not come clean. Some are too small to be useful or too flimsy to hold anything real. So you have to develop an eye for quality. You have to know which ones are worth the space they take up, and which ones are just clutter with a different name. This is not complicated, but it does take practice. A sturdy produce box with reinforced corners. Keep that. A thin pasta box that collapses if you breathe on it. Pass. A wooden crate that once held fruit. That is gold. A crushed box with tape all over it that was never meant to be reused. Let it go. The key is this. If you have to wonder whether it is worth keeping, it probably is not. The good ones are obvious. They are solid, they are clean, they have a shape that makes sense. You will know them when you see them. And here is where most people stop thinking clearly. They keep every good box. They stack them in the garage or the shed, waiting for that perfect moment when they will organize everything. That moment never comes. Instead, you end up with a pile of empty containers taking up the same space as the junk you were trying to organize in the first place. So here is the actual system. You do not store containers. You fill them. The moment a sturdy box arrives, you ask yourself one question. What do I have right now that needs a home? Not what might I need someday. Not what could I organize eventually. What do I actually have sitting around that would fit in this box and stay organized if it did? If the answer is nothing, that box goes. You do not keep it. You pass it on to someone who has something that needs it, or you break it down and recycle it. There is no in-between. You keep only what is full or about to be full. Everything else is just borrowed space that you are paying rent on, with the square footage of your homestead. This changes how you think about arrivals. When you know that every container must earn its place immediately, you start noticing what is actually cluttering your space. You see the pile of bolts that have been sitting loose in a corner for 2 years. You notice the pruning tools scattered across 3 different places. You find the seeds that got mixed together because there was nowhere to keep them sorted. And suddenly, the box that just arrived is not a gift for some imaginary future. It is the solution to a problem you have right now. It is a tool that does the job of organizing before you even put anything in it. This is why the Amish way works so well with this. When you live close to your work, you can see exactly what needs organizing. The tools are right there. The materials are right there. So when a container arrives, it does not wait. It gets filled that same day, or it goes. There is no queue of boxes. There is no basement full of storage waiting to happen. There is just the current need, solved the moment the container shows up. Now, let me tell you about a mistake that will cost you more than just keeping the system wrong. And that is storing containers inside containers. I see this constantly. Someone gets a nice sturdy box, and instead of filling it with what needs organizing, they put smaller boxes inside it, nested together, saving them for something. And now you have created a problem that is worse than the original. You have taken a useful tool and turned it into a storage unit for other tools that might never be useful. You have doubled the space consumption. You have made it harder to access anything, and you have added layers of organization that nobody is going to maintain. Do not do this. A box is a box is a box. You use it or you do not. You do not use it to store other boxes. That is not organizing. That is hoarding with better intentions. Here is what actually works. You keep 1 or 2 small containers for small items. You keep medium-sized containers for medium items. You keep large containers for large items. That is the whole system. No nesting, no waiting, no theoretical organization. Just what size is the thing and what size is the box. Match them. Fill them. Done. The Amish do not overthink this because they cannot afford to. Space is valuable. Time is valuable. A box that is not working is not a box that is waiting for its purpose. It is a box that is failing, and it gets dealt with accordingly. Now, there is one more thing about this that makes it work, and it is the part that almost nobody does. You have to maintain it. Not constantly, not obsessively, but regularly. Once a month, you walk past your storage. You look at it. You ask yourself, is this still working? Is the thing I put in this box still here, or have I used it? Do I actually need to keep this container, or has it become empty again? And if it has, it goes. You do not let it sit there gathering dust and becoming part of the landscape. You do not start thinking of it as permanent storage. You ask it the question every time, are you still earning your place? If the answer is no, you move on. This is not extra work. This is the cost of the system being honest, and it is so much cheaper than the alternative, which is buying new shelving and bins and organization systems every year, because the old ones are buried under layers of stuff that no longer serves any purpose. The average homesteader spends $300 to $500 a year on storage solutions that never actually solve the problem. They buy the bins. They organize for 2 weeks. They stop maintaining it. They buy more bins. The cycle continues. With this system, you spend nothing. You get free containers, you keep only what works, and you maintain it in under an hour a month. The math is not close. And here is the beautiful part. This is not some new system that requires you to think differently about your homestead. This is how storage worked for hundreds of years before plastic bins were invented, before organizational systems became a product category, before people started thinking of organization as something you buy instead of something you do. The Amish still do this because they never stopped. They never bought into the idea that storage is an expense. They saw that it was already arriving. They decided to use it well, and they kept the system lean enough that it actually works. You can do the same thing. You do not need anything special. You do not need a new mindset. You just need to see what is already coming through your door, understand that it has value, and use it the way it was meant to be used. That is it. That is the whole thing. So stop thinking of storage as something you need to buy. Stop waiting for the perfect organization system that is going to change everything. Stop letting empty boxes accumulate because they might be useful someday. Start looking at what is arriving anyway. Start asking yourself what actually needs organizing right now. Start keeping only what works and letting go of what does not. And start maintaining it monthly so it stays honest. Do that, and your storage problem is not solved by buying something new. It is solved by paying attention to what you already have, and that is free. I want to thank you for watching this. If you found something useful here, I hope you will subscribe and like this video. It helps more people find these ways of doing things that actually work and cost almost nothing. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. And if you want more of this, a full collection of homestead hacks that have been tested and proven to save real money, the guide is linked below. Thank you for being here.